Hey guys, it's Byron here and welcome to Byron's Reviews. So, as you may be able to tell by the clothes I'm wearing or some of the videos I've made in the past, I am a huge fan of the film production company The Asylum. I love them for their tongue-in-cheek low-budget films and sometimes just their low-budget genre pleasure escapism. And because of that, today I am going to be doing a top 5 list centered around The Asylum, which is the top 5 filmmakers at the Asylum. And I'm going to be including potentially any person in the filmmaking process on this list, other than actors. Mainly because I want to focus on the people behind the camera today, and also I may do another separate list at some point in the future with my top 5 Asylum actors. I feel that it's easy to hate on the Asylum and say that their films are bad movies, but honestly, the films they make is just for a very niche target audience, and they know exactly what they're making to appeal to those kind of people. And just because the films they make are a bit weird sometimes, it doesn't make the people who work at this company any less talented or make them put any less effort into it. Oh, and just one more thing before we start. I know this video was initially going to be a top 10 list, as I may have stated in previous videos, but I changed my mind to a top 5 list due to several reasons that I'm not going to bother going into now. So, with that said, let's get going. Number 5. To start off this list at number 5, we have Paul Bales. And Paul Bales is an associate producer or co-producer on pretty much all of the Asylum's films. And seeing how many films the Asylum has done, which is hundreds, that is absolutely insane. But what I really like Paul Bales for is for him being a writer. He is known for writing films such as Sherlock Holmes, Moby Dick and Megafault, all of which I really enjoy, and they're just to name a few. And his writing style really fits the Asylum. It's sometimes very wacky and out there, which is one of the reasons I love the company. And it gets the balance between the stories being simple enough to just kick back and enjoy, but also having that big, epic, scale with, the amount of extras sometimes, or just the settings that these films are set in, if we're going to stick with how they're written. And as well as that, his films seem to have really memorable characters, which, seeing as some of the ones I've mentioned, like Moby Dick and Sherlock Holmes, seeing as they're based off famous pieces of literature, you could say that that's not his doing. But, for example, even characters like Boomer, who are off Megafault, I found really memorable and likeable. So I still think he does very memorable characters, and I think he's a very talented writer, and he makes the Asylum awesome. Number 4. And next up we have Joseph J Larson, who is known for doing tons of visual effects on many Asylum films, and he's also directed a few, and some of the films he's directed I've really loved. He's known for films such as Nazis at the Centre of the Earth, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but if you like that kind of torture porn genre, I think it is an okay film. But as well as that, he's done Lord of the Elves and Age of Dinosaurs. And I think Joseph J Larson's films really have a certain groundedness to them, and yes, they're very fun, wacky genre films a lot of the time, but they're just very well made, and I think he's one of the Asylum directors that goes the extra mile to put detail and extra bits of effort into his films. A prime example being Lord of the Elves, because some of the locations and stuff, and some of the casting choices and things like that, and props, I thought were really nice, and they really added to it, and it's just a very solid, well-made bit of escapism with some of this guy's films. And yeah, with Age of Dinosaurs and films like that, he can get very tongue-in-cheek, which in my eyes is only a good thing, and he really makes use of the budget he has really well, it seems like. And for these reasons, that's why Joseph J. Larson is at number 4. Number 3. Now we have David Michael Latt, and how could I not include this guy, because without him we may not even have the Asylum, because he's the co-founder of the whole company, which is pretty amazing, and he's produced pretty much every film, which is great. So just for that he probably deserves the number 3 spot. But he's done lots of other things as well, such as directing, writing, and he's pretty much, in the films the Asylum does, he's pretty much done nearly everything, it seemed, in the filmmaking process, which is great. And I spoke about Megafault briefly earlier with Paul Bales, and David Michael Latt is actually the director of Megafault, so he did a great job with that. And some other films he's like written include The Terminators and AVH Alien vs Hunter. And The Terminators was just kind of a low budget action film. It was alright if you just wanted something to kick back and relax with. And then AVH Alien vs Hunter definitely did have that tongue-in-cheek aspect to it in some of the things that happen in it. So for those reasons, I think David Michael Latt has easily secured the number 3 spot. Number 2. So these final 2 people on my list are ones that you've probably heard me mention many times on previous videos, because I like them quite a bit. And number 2 is a person called Chris Ridenour, and Chris Ridenour is a music composer, and he composes the music for tons of Asylum films. Some of my favourite scores that he's done, including Mega Shark vs Giant Octopus, Sherlock Holmes, Dragon Quest, AE Apocalypse Earth, and American Warships. And they're just some of my favourites, but he's done so many others. And what I love about Chris Ridenour's music is that they really, even though these films are low budget, they give them such a big, epic feel that is just so awesome. And I honestly think that some of his soundtracks can really compete with some of the soundtracks but on the bigger budget films, if not beat a lot of them. He's really, really that good, and sometimes he's had such a short period of time to make these soundtracks for his films. Like with Mega Piranha, he had 4 days to make the whole score, and that is insane. But he pulled it off, and he did it to a pretty decent quality. So I really gotta commend Chris Ridenour, and I listen to his music frequently outside of just watching the films he's done the scores for. And if you want to check out some of his music, I'll link his SoundCloud in the description. I'd highly recommend you checking him out. Number 1. And now, claiming the number 1 spot on this list is, drumroll please, Thunder Levin. And Thunder Levin is a writer and director known for directing films like American Warships, AE Apocalypse Earth, and writing films such as 200 Miles an Hour and the Sharknado series. And if you've written the Sharknado series, you know you gotta be pretty good. But yeah, in all seriousness, I think Thunder Levin is very comparable in terms of directing to Joseph J. Larson, in the way that his films are ones that he clearly goes the extra mile with and puts a lot of effort into, and they're just very solid films. And in American Warships and AE Apocalypse Earth, which he also wrote, you can really see that shine through, and that you can see all these little things he does with the low budget that just makes it such a fun experience. But what I think really makes him good, even though his directing is awesome, is just his writing. Because when he wants to be tongue-in-cheek, like with the Sharknado series, he does that great. When he wants to be a bit more serious, for instance in American Warships, he does that very well too. And I always think that it's a bit of a risk when these low budget B movies try and have a bit more of a serious tone, because they only have so much to work with in terms of resources, because they are made on a budget. And if it's a very tongue-in-cheek film, slightly below average production value, almost it doesn't matter. When it's serious, it really does, but Thunder Levin seems to handle that fine and it works amazingly. And I just think this variety of writing styles really shows how skilled he is. And even though Thunder Levin is a great fit for the Asylum, I feel like he could easily go on to doing bigger things and much bigger scaled films, and do them just as well. In the description I'll link a few interviews with Thunder Levin, because he really is an interesting guy to listen to, and he has a lot of really intelligent and helpful things to say, especially if you're an aspiring filmmaker. But even if you're just a casual movie watcher, it's still very interesting, so they're there in the description if you're curious. So that's the whole list. I was considering doing an honourable mention section here at the end, but honestly, there are so many more other people at the Asylum that I could have picked that I think I'm going to not do that and leave it just in case of the possibility of me doing another top 5 list of more Asylum filmmakers and Asylum actors. So yeah, I may do that in the future if you guys enjoyed this, so let me know what you thought in the comments. Let me know what some of your favourite Asylum filmmakers are, and until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.